I'm very honoured to be invited here in this context and to have the opportunity to screen these two fantastic films. I chose them because, as Dennis suggested, they do kind of resonate very strongly with a set of concerns that I've kind of been exploring for the last few years while writing Satin Island. I guess the most obvious point of contact between these films and my book is the way that they these movies kind of repurpose anthropology. So both Burroughs and Grimmenpretz studied anthropology, and then, like so many anthropologists in the second half of the 20th century, they used the kind of classical model of anthropology, where you look at a primitive culture. They use this to turn the lens onto the developed world, onto the contemporary West, and onto systems of technologically underwritten capitalism. And I think both these movies show a kind of a fascination, not just with how this system of technologically underwritten capitalism is maintained, but also how it might be kind of countermanded or undermined. So to say a few words first about Towers Open Fire, the much earlier film, it may seem, I mean, on first glance, it might come across as a kind of very incoherent hippie drug trip with its dream machines and magic chanting and scenes of heroin ingestion and so on. But in fact, I think despite all this, there is quite a cogent vision being advanced in this film. I think it presents an integral fabric in which the psychic, political and poetic strands are quite tightly interwoven. So it starts with the voice of corporate power talking in very racially inflected language, talking to a son of the corporation. Burroughs was himself the scion of the Burroughs Corporation, talking to a son who's gone bad, who's gone wayward. And as the film progresses, we kind of see his various wayward activities playing themselves out. In Dial History, this control system of technological modernity is represented by the super overdetermined world of airports and of slickly managed global transit, which is also haunted by its bastard offspring, i.e. the terrorist. And both these environments, or battlefields, if you like, are rendered in both films to a very large extent as essentially a space of media, right? So subversion takes the form of media intervention, basically what we now call media hacking. This is what Burroughs' revolutionary Avatar is doing, and it's what Grimmenpretz's terrorists, and in fact what Grimmenpretz himself is doing, taking over existing media, cutting it up, repurposing it. The situationists called this détournement, which, as I found out by chance when I watched Dial History online with French subtitles, is actually the French term for hijacking, airline hijacking. And I think maybe perhaps the strand that I kind of identify with most in these films is this notion running through them of the book, right? So in Dial History, Grimmenpretz samples Don DeLillo's passage from Mao 2, in which DeLillo asks, who will write the book? In other words, he suggests that the control of history and of reality is ultimately what the anthropologist Michel de Certeau would call a scriptural enterprise, right? Who gets to write the book? Mm-hmm. In Towers Open Fire, Burroughs dramatizes the vision that he lays out in his novel Nova Express of a world kind of presided over by what he calls the board books, the master codices that the board, by keeping in their possession, used to control the reality studio, as he calls it. So, while the formal techniques in both these films have been, to use another situationist term, recuperated by advertising, by the mainstream media, and so on. What I still find genuinely subversive about both of them is this implicit insertion I think they're making that the book, as an archive of the past and an index of the present and a script for the future, that this book, and by extension what we might call Western airspace, that this doesn't inherently and necessarily belong to the board, right? They didn't write it, they acquired it, they wrested control of it, which always leaves open a possibility that revolutionaries or maybe artists might one day steal it back. So that's all I'm going to say at this point. So let's roll the films. Thank you.